Today we're talking about the threat drive Soothe system.
All right, so you don't know this
I
one,
don't
so I'm
know.
going to teach you this
Yes,
today,
please.
so you can ask me questions that they might have. All right.
Okay, we'll do.
I'm going to start off now. What I'm doing here is the threat drive Soothe system comes from compassion focused therapy, which was developed by a guy called Paul Gilbert, right? So I'm taking the basis of his stuff, but I'm going to overlay some of the other stuff that you and I work with in terms of distress, but also some schema therapy stuff.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to start off with the SUD scale. You know this one. SUD, subjective units of distress, kind of 1 to 10 scale. Some people do it 1 to 100 scale, but I find 1 to 10 easier. All right. Loosely speaking, we know that 10 out of 10 being kind of maximum sort of panic.
Yep, freak out.
Yep.
Yep.
5 kind of I'm starting to feel some discomfort, and 1 chill and calm. All right. So what we know is that most people experience what we call a boiling point, usually somewhere around about 8, depending on sensitivity, where people go, once I kind of reach this threshold and I'm above here, I'm starting to have difficulty managing my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So when people start hitting SUDS ratings of 8s, 9s, 10s, they're not functioning well, they're not problem solving effectively, they're getting overwhelmed by the emotion, they're starting to head into distress cycle.
Yeah, yeah. So regrettable action is coming your way.
Yeah, much more likely
skillful.
up here. Okay. Now, when I went to this workshop on compassion focused therapy, it was the end of 2019, the instructor made a reference to a paper. Now, you know what? I can't find it. So to the rest of the collective out there, I'm talking to you guys, help me out with this. See if you can find the reference for this stat. Because what she said was approximately 30% of the population, particularly those who have experienced early childhood trauma, so we're looking at borderline personality disorder, complex PTSD sort of diagnoses and cluster, 30% of the population experience a freeze response when they start to down-regulate and their arousal drops too low. So 30% of the population seem to have this kind of paradoxical response where when we are doing some de-arousal work kind of within therapy, trying to get them to calm down, they reach a point where they go, nah, too calm, not safe, can't handle it, and they do this paradoxical flip back up. Now, as I said, I can't find the reference for this, but I've mentioned this to patients, and I have about 30% of my patients go, yeah, that's me.
It's different to a disassociation. So
well, what seems to happen, well, you can either dissociate where there's kind of no register of SUDS, or it's this sense of being too calm feels unsafe because I'm not on guard, I've lost my edge, I'm not comfortable being calm. And these are the people who say to me, I don't like relaxation, I don't like meditation, it doesn't work for me, I don't like the feeling of it. And so if we try and push them down here, they get a paradoxical flip back up.
If I'm too relaxed, I'm too vulnerable.
Yes.
Okay, and that's scary.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay,
right.
within it.
So within here then, so if you have no freeze point, you have what we call a window of tolerance, right? So from say 8 or below, you can tolerate stuff. Above an 8, you're starting to lose it, which is like all of us have a boiling point. But if you have a freeze point, your window of tolerance is now only here.
I understand.
So you've got a smaller window of tolerance, right? So enter threat drive Soothe system.
Okay.
So what Gilbert kind of proposed from this is there are 3 systems that we have internally that is around how we respond to distress. So we have a threat system. This comes from the limbic system. This is your amygdala and your thalamus and all of that, where the function of the threat system is detection and protection from threat. So there's an element of our brain that is constantly scanning for threat, and when we find it, we respond to it.
Yes.
So it is predominantly developed for physical threat, saber-toothed tiger out in the environment, but it is also used for psychological threat, failure, rejection, abandonment, judgment, right? So it's your limbic system, it's looking for failure, and adrenaline and cortisol is involved in this process, right? So that's your threat system. What you've also got is then your drive system. This is the part of us that is focused on seeking out resources and being productive. It's the part of us that gets stuff done, right?
Okay. So when we're not
here, then we're in drive.
We can be driven.
We can be in So it's task focused, it's productivity, achievement, it's using our kind of dopamine receptors because we get that reward from the feelings of success of being kind of productive and achieving and things like that. But where we start to see difficulty is when people bounce from here to here. Because what that means is when they're in the threat system, and this isn't a comfortable place to stay, so people don't want to stay in their threat system, particularly when it's psychological threat.
But some people are kind of trapped there. If
Some
you've got
are.
severe trauma or something.
Yeah, yeah. But those people, even the people who feel trapped there, don't want to stay there. They will do everything they can to get out of there.
Yeah.
And what happens is people will start to try and apply their drive system to resolve their threat system.
And to sort of distract themselves from
in the context of distress.
Yep.
What is supposed to happen is we have a third system called a Soothe system.
Mm-hmm.
This is the system that manages distress and promotes bonding. This is where we are able to take care of ourselves when we are in distress in the absence of actual threat. Like if there's a presence of actual threat, if there's an actual saber-toothed tiger, use your threat system, get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
That's fine. If it's a psychological threat, if it's a distress response, what we need is our Soothe system to be able to down-regulate the system. But what happens is people have an underdeveloped or an under-resourced Soothe system. So this is missing.
Okay.
Which means they ping pong from here to here.
Okay, fair enough.
And what happens now? Your drive system is very, very, very good within your window of tolerance.
Yep.
When you're in your window of tolerance, whether it's this big or this big, you can get stuff done.
Yep.
When you're in your threat system, people are trying to use their drive system to resolve their threat system. It doesn't work.
Yeah. Okay.
Because if you were in overwhelming distress and you were trying to fix it, we see perfectionism, we see self-sacrifice, we see maladaptive over-control, we see addiction, we see burnout.
Okay.
Because if you're constantly trying to fix your distress without actually looking after yourself in distress, because your Soothe system is absent, then we have people trying to use their drive system up here.
To de-arouse.
Or we have people trying to use their drive system down here in a freeze situation.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is they don't have a Soothe system. I presume from what you're saying is, let's say you were in difficult childhood circumstances, you weren't nurtured, you weren't soothed, you didn't receive the stuff, you didn't learn how to do it, so all you had was those.
Yeah.
Okay, so that never got installed.
Exactly. So if we put a schema therapy overlay on this is your vulnerable child mode, this is your demanding parent.
And this is healthy adult then.
Yeah. And ideally, this is your healthy adult. But we talk about this in schema, and I mean, I've got enough YouTube videos up there now for schema stuff to know that if you haven't had the experience of a healthy adult or a good parent in your early development, where you haven't had someone explicitly teach you how to look after yourself when you're in distress, you got no idea how to do this.
Yeah, I accept that.
So what happens is this system is underdeveloped, which leaves people ping-ponging through here, and this actually becomes your maladaptive coping mode. So I'm in threat, I've got to overcompensate, or I'm in threat, so I've got to avoid because I've got to fix this, or I'm in threat, and then we see the freeze system. None of that's involving your Soothe system. So here, this is where we need to actually start being more deliberate about your Soothe system. This is part of the rationale for having your healthy adult look after you when you're in distress, and to say, it's okay for me to stop and look after myself when I'm in distress. I can handle this feeling. I can tolerate my distress. I can care for myself while I'm in distress.
Yeah, I guess it's also sort of like I'm worthy of soothing myself.
Okay, so what's the biggest barriers to people actually stop, take a break, look after yourself when you're in distress? Use your Soothe system. Get back into your window of tolerance, whether that's coming down or moving up. When you're in your window of tolerance, you move back to your drive system.
Yeah.
But the biggest barriers, worth, that's one of the biggest ones. I don't deserve to look after myself. This problem that I'm experiencing isn't that big a deal. So we get self-invalidation. I should be over this by now. But then we'll get some more practical stuff of, I don't have the time to self-soothe. I don't have the time to look after myself because I've got so much to do.
Or because I'm freaking out.
Well, yeah. But we'll get priority. We don't make the time for this.
Yeah.
We don't know how to do this. We don't have the knowledge. We don't have the education. We don't have the skills to fall back on for this sort of stuff. Or there's kind of some unhelpful beliefs. I need my drive system because this is how I keep my edge. This keeps me going. This makes me good. This is how I kind of get the A's on my assignments. This is how I get promoted at work. I have to drive. I can't stop. I can't
So
give
this
up.
is also your burnout system.
Well, it becomes maladaptive. If you're using your drive system, if you're using your drive system to respond to distress outside of your window of tolerance, burnout.
Yeah.
Your drive system in your window of tolerance, beautiful. Fine, go for it. Love it.
Yeah.
But when you are outside of your window of tolerance, you need your soothe system, not this. And if you are freaking out and you're calmed down and you have a freeze response, then you need your soothe system down here as well. So 4 ingredients for emotional well-being.
Yeah. Now we're of course assuming that there's not a bona fide threat.
Oh yeah, if there's actual threat, get the hell out of there.
Yeah. But if the threat is
So I'm
you're
talking about distress.
you're beating yourself up because of
Yeah.
whatever invalidation and you're in a total tears.
Yeah.
Okay. Now's not the time to be crucifying yourself. Now's the time to start. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's self-manage.
So 4 ingredients. Oh look, here's one I prepared earlier. You didn't notice. 4 ingredients for emotional well-being. 1, self-care. Now, self-care is not the same thing as self-soothe, and people sometimes get this mixed up. And what is it? It's like all self-soothe is self-care, but not all self-care is self-soothe. Kind of like all thumbs are fingers, but not all fingers are thumbs, right?
Okay.
So you can self-care in a way that has nothing to do with soothing. All right, so self-care is very behavioural. Self-care is brush your teeth, eat, sleep, shower, move, look after your physical health.
Yeah, self-maintenance.
Yeah, self-maintenance, yeah.
Yeah.
That's not always soothing.
No.
Right? Self-validating, the ability to be able to say, my experience is real for me. This is hard. I am struggling. I am in distress.
Mm-hmm.
We're not even at the point of being nice to yourself yet. We're just simply at the point of acknowledging the existence of the distress and the impact that it's having on you. And then we get to self-soothe. This is, it's behavioral, but it's also experiential, right? So the self-soothe is the ability to look after yourself whilst you're experiencing the distress.
Can you give some examples of what that might look like?
Okay, so I want you to be really careful that we're not getting into detached self-soother, and we've got a schema video to kind of explain the difference there. So functional, healthy self-soothe, the ability to be able to, okay, so for me, if I've had a tough day at work and I get home and I'm like, okay, that day's over, but I'm still kind of feeling the impact of a really hard day. I'm tired, I'm mentally drained because I've done some work, or I've heard some heavy stuff because maybe I've been doing some trauma work that day or something. And I get home and it's like, okay, I need to just look after myself right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, that's things like, I'll put the kids to bed and then I'll go have a shower.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll put my jammies on and I'll make a cup of tea because I have that special bedtime tea. It's a robust tea, so there's no caffeine in it. And I'll put on some trashy crap on TV that just isn't triggering, isn't overly stimulating.
So it's a comfortable kind of ritual, all right, that you can feel safe in. Okay, that it's familiar. Okay, you're going through a process
I've
that's
got
familiar.
It pre-planned, I know, okay, bad day equals shower plus tea plus
Gym jams plus whatever.
Gilmore Girls, whatever.
Okay. So you go through that, and then at the end of that, you can.
And that's a big thing for me, is to be able to go and drop the threat, because then I can go to sleep.
Yeah, because
if I don't deal with the distress, I'm not sleeping well that night.
Well, I guess, and this is where people. Okay, no worries. I'm feeling stressed out. I've had a really rough day. Time for tequila or 10.
Well,
okay. And so then I'm kind of soothing my emotional state, but I'm doing that in a really maladaptive way.
Yes.
Because I'm going to kill my sleep. I'm going to be lousy the next day. I'm going to be more sensitive.
Yes.
It's a big problem.
Or, oh my God, I'm so stressed out because I've got so much to do. I'll go home and I'll keep working and I'll keep getting all that stuff done. And then I would have ticked some things off my to-do list. And then tomorrow will be a better day. But it means that you're not getting that there's no space for self-care if you're still working until midnight.
Yeah.
So, and I have this struggle regularly. I mean, the Site Collective is stuff that we do in our own time outside of our kind of day jobs. So I get home from work and I have that decision of, do I do Site Collective or do I take a break and look after myself, knowing that that means Site Collective work isn't getting done. Yeah. And so you've got that dialectic of how much do I kind of drive and how much do I soothe? And there's sometimes where I've got to go, you know what? I have to soothe, because if I don't, then I'm here.
Yeah.
And then none of this is working.
Yeah. So this is a anti-burnout,
yes,
anti-distress.
Yes.
It's the best medicine you might want.
Yes. And it's the oxygen mask theory, right? If you don't put your oxygen mask on first, then you're useless at looking after everybody else. So there's no weakness in here. There is skill.
Yeah, so I guess one needs to figure out a self-soothing routine that works for you.
Yes, that doesn't have any maladaptive consequences. Double negative, any consequences.
Yeah.
So like if having one glass of wine Okay.
Yeah, maybe.
Not going to argue with you
Yeah.
too much. But having a whole bottle, problematic.
Maybe not. Yeah. Okay. Because the consequences. Okay?
Yes,
So
exactly.
more sensitive the next day, more likely to have a shitty day, more likely to need more booze the next
Well,
day.
yeah,
blah, blah,
and
blah.
harder
So,
for you
so
to
you
drive
want
the
so
next
you want to come up with a self-soothe strategy that feels soothing
Yes.
and feels authentic.
Yes.
Okay, and something that you don't have to. Oh, I've got to book in for a cocoon flotation. No, I mean, I'm all for that.
Oh, yeah, all
but,
for it.
But it's got to be something that you can kind of just do.
Yes.
Like, I can do
And
this tonight.
So you have in the moment soothing, you kind of have
Yeah.
in your short term, and then you have some longer term stuff where, like, I go for a massage every third Thursday at 6 o'clock. Standing appointment. Every 3 weeks, 6 o'clock.
Nice.
On Thursday, I'm getting a massage.
Okay.
Right? And that's just booked in 6 months ahead. That's how I'm,
Yeah,
that's,
right.
but that's part of my self-soothing,
Yeah, right.
kind of my longer term management
Nice.
strategy. But the other part, the hardest part, if you're not used to this, is actually bringing in the self-compassion. So these can be largely behavioural.
Yeah.
But self-compassion, that comes from within. That is the ability to be able to say, I deserve to look after myself while I'm feeling distressed. And for those of you who've just squirmed at me, who just had a disgust response of the idea of feeling that you are deserving of attention, well, that tells us we've got some more work to do. But it ultimately comes down to being kind to yourself. So they talked about kind of self-compassion is not getting rid of the distress, but holding yourself kindly whilst you experience the distress.
Okay.
That was my takeaway quote from my compassion focused therapy workshop.
Can you say that again?
Self-compassion is
Yeah.
not to get rid of the distress, but to hold yourself kindly whilst you experience the distress.
Okay.
So it's knowing that it's not a magical fix. It's not going to
Yeah.
get rid of it. It's not going to take it away. We don't actually want to fix it or take it away. That causes more problems. But it's the ability to look after yourself, knowing that you can handle it and being kind to yourself while you're experiencing it.
My aunt would say to me, remember to be gentle with yourself.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's what the self-compassion is, which is
Yeah.
very much around your own kind of self-talk. And if your inner critic is really loud, if it's got a megaphone and a whip and it's interfering with this, well, that tells us we've got some work to do. But for kind of self-soothing to really, really be effective, it's got to have that compassion component to it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just kind of going
Going
through
through the
motions.
motions.
Sitting on the couch, drinking a cup of tea, in your jammies, watching Gilmore Girls, but the whole time your brain's
Having trips with
going,
yourself.
well,
Yeah.
you're kind of useless, you failed, you didn't get that all done. Why do you mean you're sitting on the couch? You're being lazy, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. That's not self-soothing.
So it's being genuine.
Well, yeah, it is. Okay, so it's recognizing that within your window of tolerance, use your drive system. Beautiful, that's what it's there for, right? When a threat is actually present, use your threat system. Outside of your window of tolerance, make time for soothe, right? Have your downtime. If you use your phone for 15 hours straight and your battery dies, do you tell your phone it's useless and it's failed? No, you plug it in, you recharge it. Guess what? You need recharging too. I just don't want you inserting any cords anymore. All right,
All right, good.
did that make sense?
Yeah, that was perfect. Yeah.
Okay, all right, so 4 elements for emotional well-being: self-care, self-validate, self-soothe, self-compassion. I might make a worksheet on this.
I think so.
I'll get to it over the
Well,
next
some
couple of weeks.
examples I think would be good. for
Yeah.
people.
You know what? This will go up on Instagram before I get around to making a worksheet. So make sure you're following us on Instagram, Facebook, website, psycollective.com. We'll see you next time. Thanks, guys. See ya.
Thanks, Max.